What Machiavelli knew about education that no one ever told you. You believed your whole life that school was the path to freedom. But what if it was all a well-constructed illusion, designed to tame you and turn you into just another obedient piece in the system? In this video, we reveal what no one wants you to discover. How modern education was built to control your mind, kill your authenticity, and keep you away from true freedom. Back in the 16th century, Machiavelli already understood what the powerful still know today. The best way to control people is from childhood. In this video, you'll learn why schools were designed like factories, not temples of wisdom. How the school curriculum suppresses your creativity and critical thinking. The cruel logic of rewarding obedience and punishing authenticity. Why they train you to become a luxury slave instead of a free thinker. What Machiavelli knew about the power of collective ignorance. And most importantly, how to break free from this mental matrix. This video isn't about hating school. It's about truth. And if this truth makes you uncomfortable, it means you're starting to wake up. Now it's your turn. Comment below. What do you wish you had learned in school, but only discovered later? Your comment might open someone else's eyes. Like the video if it struck a chord with you. Share it with someone who's still trapped in the system. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell, because here we don't obey blindly. We think. Education is an invisible prison, Machiavelli. The invisible prison called school. Since you were a child, you were taught that school is the path to freedom. That studying hard, getting good grades, and behaving well was the magic formula for success. But what if I told you that all of this is a carefully constructed lie? Think about it. Do you remember the first time you walked into a classroom? Rows of desks, a board at the front, a teacher in control, a bell that rings to tell you when you're allowed to eat, when you can go to the bathroom, when you're allowed to leave. You know what that sounds like? Prison. But not just any prison. An invisible one. A prison with brightly colored walls, where you walk in smiling and walk out conditioned. And the worst part? You thank them for it. School was never about setting you free. It was always about shaping you, about turning creative, curious, spontaneous children into predictable, obedient adults, perfectly adjusted to the system. Now listen to this. Niccolò Machiavelli, back in the 16th century, already said that the secret to power isn't ruling by force. It's shaping people's minds. Not domination through fear, but through programming. And what is modern schooling, if not the first factory of mental molding? You walk in thirsty to discover the world, but little by little they tell you, sit still. Don't speak unless you raise your hand. Don't question the teacher. That answer's wrong because it's not in the book. School doesn't teach you how to think. It teaches you how to repeat, to memorize, to obey, to follow a curriculum you never chose, designed by people you've never met, to prepare you for a world you don't control. And you think that's normal. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself, why did you never have a class on how to deal with your emotions? Or how the banking system works? Or how to recognize psychological manipulation? Because a population that thinks, that understands, that feels, is dangerous. And Machiavelli knew that. Now let me ask you, how many times were you praised for being creative in school? How many times were you punished for questioning? How often did you feel like you were truly learning? And how often were you just memorizing? Comment down below right now. Did school help you think? Or train you to obey? Your answer might spark something in the mind of someone who's still asleep. You're not alone. This prison is vast. But the key has always been in your hands. The curriculum of control and the death of creativity. Have you ever wondered who decides what you learn in school? It's not your teacher. It's not your family. And it's definitely not you. What enters your mind was chosen by committees, by bureaucrats, by men in suits who have never set foot in the classroom where you spent years of your life. The school curriculum is not neutral. It's political. It's a tool, a weapon, a way to control what you think, what you value, and more importantly, what you ignore. Now answer honestly, where were the classes on emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and critical thinking? Who taught you how to deal with anxiety, frustration, insecurity? Why did no one explain how the financial system that rules your life actually works? You spent years memorizing math formulas you never used. You recited war dates, river names, grammar rules, but no one taught you to question power. No one showed you how to recognize manipulation. No one explained why you wake up tired, go to work stressed, come home empty, and still feel grateful to have a job. You know why? Because the purpose of the school curriculum isn't to set you free. It's to condition you, to make you useful, submissive, easy to manage. Machiavelli would understand this perfectly. He wrote centuries ago that a smart ruler doesn't need to use force often. He just needs to control the narrative, control what people believe is true. And the school curriculum is the official narrative of the system. Everything that could turn you into a threat to the status quo was removed. Have you noticed how subjects are placed into neat little boxes? History doesn't talk to economics. Philosophy avoids politics. Art is pushed to the margins. That fragmentation isn't accidental. It's strategic. Keeps you from connecting the dots. Keeps you from seeing the whole game. You know the quadratic formula, but you don't know why you pay taxes without understanding where the money goes. You memorized the layers of the atmosphere, but you never learned how emotional manipulation destroys relationships and your mental health. That's why so many people leave school unprepared for life. Not because they're stupid, but because they were educated to ignore what truly matters. And creativity? Suffocated. Children who once drew fantastical worlds are taught to stop dreaming and start conforming. Teenagers who wanted to change the world are labeled immature and unrealistic. The system turns restless minds into silent workers. Comment below, what was the most useful subject you learned in school? And more importantly, what do you wish you had learned, but never did? Your comment might be the wake-up call someone else needs. Let's dismantle this stage together, because once the lie is exposed, it loses its power. The reward of obedience, the punishment of authenticity. In school, you quickly realized there was a certain behavior pattern expected of you. Raise your hand to speak. Stay quiet while others talk. Do the assignment exactly as the teacher instructed. Study for the test, get a good grade, and receive the prize. A compliment, a gold star, a smile of approval. But let's be real. Those rewards weren't recognition. They were conditioning. School created such an efficient system of rewards and punishments that you didn't even notice when you stopped being yourself and became the student they wanted you to be. Did you notice how the good kids, the ones who followed rules without question, were the favorites? They got the lead roles in school plays, were praised in front of everyone, were called examples. But what about the others? The ones who questioned things, who thought differently, who dared to speak their truth. They were the problem. The rebels, the difficult ones, the ones who needed a psychologist. Machiavelli once wrote that the greatest threat to power isn't an external enemy. It's the internal thinker, the one who dares to think differently from the group, the one who doesn't bow to impose truths. School then became a training ground for domestication. It rewards obedience and punishes authenticity. Have you ever felt like you had to pretend to be someone else just to be accepted in the classroom? Have you ever hidden your ideas out of fear of seeming weird? Have you noticed that when you tried to innovate or create something unusual, the response was awkward silence? Or even criticism? That's no coincidence. The system doesn't want creative minds. It wants functioning cogs. It wants predictability. Obedient students grow into obedient adults. Adults who don't question the boss, who accept injustice quietly, who think stability is more important than freedom. Now stop and think. When was the last time you were truly yourself, without fear of judgment? When was the last time someone told you that you were too much, too intense, too much of a dreamer? Exactly. What they call too much is precisely what makes you unique. And that's why school had to suppress it early. before you discovered your power. Machiavelli knew that controlling the masses starts in childhood. And it starts with fear. Fear of being wrong. Fear of being different. Fear of being rejected. And what happens to those authentic students? Many go silent. Others rebel. But almost all of them, at some point, feel alone. If that was your case, you're not alone. Drop a comment here. Have you ever felt like you had to hide who you really were to fit in at school? Were you ever punished for being different, for thinking outside the box? Write it down. Speak up, because your story might be the spark that helps free other voices that were silenced too. The system that creates luxury slaves. Since you were a kid, they've told you, study hard so you can get a good job. Pass the college entrance exam. Choose a safe profession. Get a steady paycheck and don't take risks. And you believed it because you trusted them. You trusted your parents. You trusted your teachers. You trusted the system. But here's what no one told you. This was all designed as a sophisticated trap. Because the goal was never to set you free. It was to turn you into a comfortable slave. A luxury slave. Think about it. If school was really about freedom, why doesn't it teach you how to start your own business? Why does no one talk about financial independence, how to build passive income, or how to become a leader? Why isn't there a single class that teaches you how to protect your time, your mind, and your power? Simple, because a truly free human being is dangerous to those at the top. They don't want leaders. They want employees. They want you to be grateful for a paycheck that barely covers your bills. They want you to take pride in a job that drains your energy, your health, and your dreams, while making someone else rich. You're not taught to think like an owner. You're trained to seek approval, first from the teacher, then from the boss. Machiavelli knew this centuries ago. Keep the people busy and hopeful, and they won't rebel. And the current system is the perfect execution of that strategy. They keep you busy with tests, then with bills. They convince you that life is just this: study, work, pay bills, and if there's any time left, rest on the weekend. But that rest is just a pause before the next Monday. The cage is golden, but it's still a cage. And the cruelest part? You start defending your own prison. You're afraid to let go and try something different. Afraid it won't work. Afraid to step out of line. Because they taught you that success means following the path everyone else follows. Even if that path leads to emptiness. How many people do you know who hate what they do? Who wake up exhausted, with heavy hearts, just waiting for the next holiday. And still, they say they're successful. Why? Because they have a financed car? A fancy name badge? A house they barely get to enjoy? That's not success. That's survival with makeup. Drop a comment here. Were you taught to own your life or to be a good employee? Have you started to realize that everything they told you about making it in life was just a different version of the same prison? Share your experience. You might be the spark that wakes up someone who's still asleep. Because while school creates obedient soldiers, true freedom begins the moment you realize you were programmed to serve and choose finally to break free. The truth they never told you. Now that you understand how the system trains you to obey, maybe you're ready to face something even deeper. Something most people can't handle. Something many would rather deny. But something you need to face if you truly want to be free. School didn't fail you. It worked exactly as intended. It did precisely what it was designed to do. Domesticate. And this isn't some conspiracy theory. It's social engineering. You were conditioned from a young age to trust authority, to obey orders without question, to repeat ideas that weren't yours, and to mock anyone who dared to think differently. That's why when someone calls school a prison, most people laugh. But what is a prison, if not a place where you're watched, controlled, punished for disobedience, and rewarded for following the rules? You had a set time to arrive and leave. You couldn't go to the bathroom without asking for permission. You couldn't choose what to study or how to learn. And if you dared to question the material or the teacher, you were punished. But if you stayed quiet and repeated what they told you, you were rewarded. With grades, with praise, with approval. Is that freedom? Or is that conditioning? Machiavelli never said rulers should rule with brutality all the time. He understood that the most effective control is the one that looks like freedom. That's why the real mechanisms of domination aren't obvious. They're embedded in the culture, in the language, in what you've been taught to see as normal. You were never taught how the banking system works, never taught how governments use propaganda to manipulate, never taught how the media shapes the narrative. But you were taught that 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, that America was discovered in 1492, and that you should respect authority without question. You think that's a coincidence? Of course not. You're not stupid. You were just trained not to see. And here's something else they never told you. Machiavelli wasn't the villain they taught you to hate. He wasn't some evil monster. He just had the courage to write, without sugarcoating, how power really works. He wasn't hated for being cruel. He was hated for being honest. While others painted the world with morality and feel-good ideals, Machiavelli said, "If you want to rule, understand human nature as it is, not as you wish it to be." In other words, the people who control you aren't kind. They're just smarter, and they count on your obedience to stay in power. So tell me, when did you start noticing that something was wrong with how we were educated? Was it in school, at work, or only now while watching this video? Write it in the comments. Share your moment of awakening, because every time someone breaks free from an illusion, the system loses strength. And that's why this kind of content bothers people so much, because it hits at the root of the problem. You weren't educated. You were shaped, and now it's time to break the mold. The way out of the maze begins with awareness. Now that all of this is clear, the inevitable question arises. So what now? What do I do with this awareness? You've realized you spent years inside a system designed to keep you ignorant, obedient, and numb. But escaping the maze takes more than just anger. It requires conscious action. The first thing you need to understand is this: no one is coming to save you. Don't wait for school to change. Don't wait for the government to change. Don't wait for the system to change. They won't. And do you know why? Because they're working exactly as they were designed to. Waiting for the system to free you is like expecting the jailer to teach you how to escape. The way out of the maze begins when you stop blaming the world and start taking control of your own mind. And here comes the brutal truth. If you keep outsourcing your awareness to teachers, politicians, influencers, and gurus, you'll spend your life as a puppet with the illusion of freedom. Because freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is understanding why you want what you want. It's breaking the invisible chains that make you repeat behaviors without even knowing where they came from. Start now. Question everything. Question why you believe what you believe. Question the labels you were given. Question the fears they taught you. Question your routine, your habits, your dreams. Do you really want what you want? Or are you just following a social script they sold you since childhood? Stop consuming passively. Start learning on your own. Read books that challenge you. Watch videos that make you uncomfortable. Seek the kind of knowledge that frees you, not the kind that trains you. If you've made it this far in the video, you're already ahead of 99% of people still living on autopilot. But now the choice is yours. You can simply close this video and go on with your life like nothing happened, or you can take the next step. You can become someone who didn't just wake up, but who also helps wake others up. If this message made sense to you, if it gave you that good kind of discomfort, the one that comes right before awakening, then you have a mission. Like this video, because that tells the algorithm this kind of message needs to reach more people. Comment below, what part of this video hit you the hardest? Share your insight, your anger, your breakthrough. And most importantly, share this with someone who's still asleep. With that friend who still believes the system is fair. With that person who needs to open their eyes, but doesn't know how yet. Because awakening is individual, but revolution is collective. And it all starts with one simple act of courage: choosing to see.